When Marco Schneider, a multi-millionaire, knelt before his wife Anna's grave in Ohlsdorf Cemetery in Hamburg, he thought it was the end. 3 years of pain, 3 years of mourning the woman he loved more than life itself. But when this ragged 6-year-old girl approached him and whispered, "Your wife is alive. I saw her last night," his world fell apart. If Anna was alive, who had lied? Who had faked her death? And above all, where had his wife been for the last 3 years while he was dying of grief? Hamburg, October 2024. The Ohlsdorf cemetery was shrouded in an autumnal fog that made everything seem more melancholic. Marco Schneider, 48 years old, owner of a 300 million real estate empire, walked slowly between the marble stones with a bouquet of white roses in his hand. It was the third anniversary of the death of Anna, his wife, and like every year, Marco came here to spend the whole day next to her grave. He was wearing his best black suit, the same one he had worn on the day of the funeral, which Anna had given him for their last wedding anniversary. Anna's grave was one of the most beautiful in the cemetery. White Carrara marble, a framed photo showing her radiant smile, and the inscription, "Beloved wife and mother, your smile still brightens our days." Marco knelt before the gravestone and gently laid down the roses. His hands trembled as he caressed Anna's photo. At 42, she had been the most beautiful woman he had ever seen. Chestnut brown hair that shone in the sun, green eyes as deep as the sea, a smile that made him forget all the problems in the world. "Hello, my love," Marco whispered in a broken voice. "3 years have passed, and I still can't accept that you're gone." Over the past 3 years, Marco had become a shadow of his former self. His business was still doing well, but he had lost interest in everything. He never went out, never saw friends, never looked at another woman. Anna had been his world, and without her, everything had lost its meaning. "Lena has grown so much," he continued to the photo. "She's 19 now and studying. She's as beautiful as you are. Sometimes she looks at me with your eyes, and for a moment I think you've come back." Marco pulled a crumpled letter from his jacket, the same one he read every year on this day. It was the last letter Anna had written to him before the accident. "Marco, my love, I know we've been distant lately, but I want you to know that I love you more than my own life. There are things I need to tell you, secrets I've kept to protect you, but soon everything will be resolved and we can be happy again, like we used to be. I love you forever, Anna." This letter had tormented him for 3 years. What secrets? What had Anna wanted to tell him? She had died before she could reveal it to him. And now Marco would never know. Just as he was about to get up, he heard light footsteps behind him. He turned around and saw a girl of about 16, thin, with torn and dirty clothes and tousled hair. She was obviously homeless, one of those girls who lived on the streets in the outskirts of Hamburg. "Excuse me, sir," the girl said in a shy voice. "Are you Marco Schneider?" Marco looked at her in surprise. "Yes, I am. Who are you, Tawel?" The girl looked around nervously, as if she was afraid of being seen. "My name is Sophie. I have to tell you something very important." "This isn't the right time, young lady. I'm visiting my wife. It's about her that I need to talk," said Sophie, coming closer. "Anna Schneider." Marco felt his heart stop. "How do you know my wife's name?" Sophie lowered her voice to a whisper because her wife is alive. "I saw her last night." Marco's world came to a complete standstill. Marco looked at the girl as if he had misheard her. "What did you say?" "Your wife Anna is alive," Sophie repeated more emphatically. "I saw her last night in a house in Wilhelmsburg. She was fine." Marco jumped up and grabbed Sophie by the shoulders. "Are you crazy? My wife died 3 years ago. I was at her funeral. I saw her in the coffin." "No, sir. Listen to me," Sophie said, freeing herself from his grip. "I've been living on the streets since my parents died. I know every corner of Hamburg. 3 days ago, I saw a woman who gave me food. She looked exactly like the photo in the newspapers 3 years ago." Marco felt his legs give way. He sat down on the marble bench next to the grave. "That's impossible. Anna died in a car accident. The car exploded. They found her remains." "Mr. Schneider," Sophie said, sitting down next to him, "I know what I saw. This woman gave me food, and when I asked her name, she hesitated. Then she said her name was Maria, but I recognized her immediately. Even if it were true, Which it isn't. Why should I believe you? You're a homeless woman who probably wants money. Sophie pulled a small gold object from the torn pocket of her jacket. It was an earring that Marco recognized immediately. She dropped it when she ran away after hearing sirens. I picked it up. Marco took the earring with trembling hands. It was the one he had given Anna on their last wedding anniversary. A small gold heart engraved with Ma forever. Where did you get that? Marco stammered. I told you, it fell out of that woman's pocket last night. The woman you say is dead. Marco looked at the earring, then at the grave, then back at Sophie. His rational mind told him it was impossible, but that little gold heart was proof that something was wrong. If Anna were alive, Marco said in a broken voice, would that mean someone faked her death? But why? I don't know, sir. I only know what I saw. Marco stood up again, this time with determination. Take me to her. Take me to that place where you saw her. I don't know if she's still there. She seemed frightened, as if she were running away from someone. I don't care. I need to know the truth. Sophie hesitated. Mr. Schneider, if your wife is really alive and someone made her disappear, that means she's in danger, and we could also be in danger if we start asking questions. Marco looked at Anna's photo on the grave. If there was even the slightest chance that she was alive, he had to find out no matter how dangerous it was. Sophie, Marco said firmly, if you help me find her, I'll give you anything you want. A home, money, a future, but you have to help me. Sophie nodded slowly. Agreed, but we have to be careful. I have a feeling this story is much more complicated than it seems. As they left the cemetery, Marco didn't know that their conversation had been overheard by someone hiding behind a grave. Someone who now knew that the secret was about to be discovered. Do you like this story? Give it a like and subscribe to the channel. Now let's continue with the video. Marco drove his BMW through the increasingly shabby streets that led to Wilhelmsburg, one of Hamburg's poorest neighborhoods. Sophie sat next to him and showed him the way with growing nervousness. Here it is, Sophie said as they stopped in front of a dilapidated building from the 1970s. Third floor, apartment 15. Marco looked at the gray building with broken windows and graffiti on the walls. It was impossible to imagine Anna, who was used to the luxury of her villa in Blankenay, living in a place like this. They climbed the dark and foul-smelling stairs. Apartment 15 had a peeling wooden door with no name on the sign. Marco hesitated for a moment, then knocked softly. No answer. He knocked louder. Anna, it's me, Marco. They heard quick footsteps in the apartment, then the sound of a window opening. Sophie ran to the stairwell window and looked out. She's running away, she shouted across the courtyard. Marco didn't think twice. He ran down the stairs, left the building, and ran to the courtyard. He saw a female figure fleeing through a gate at the back. For a moment, the woman turned around. Even from a distance, even with her hair cut short and dyed black, even with her shabby and neglected clothes, Marco recognized her. It was Anna. Anna, Marco shouted with all his might. The woman stopped for a moment, as if the sound of his voice had struck her like lightning. Their eyes met for a second that seemed like an eternity. Then Anna ran on and disappeared between the buildings. Marco stood motionless in the courtyard. His heart was beating so hard it hurt. She was alive. Anna was alive. Sophie reached him breathlessly. Did you see her? Yes, Marco whispered. It was her. It really was her. They returned to the apartment and Marco kicked the door open. The apartment was small and shabby, a double bed, a kitchenette, a tiny bathroom. But there were women's clothes on the bed and a photo on the nightstand. Marco picked up the photo and felt dizzy. It was a photo of him, Anna, and Lena, taken 2 years before Anna's death. But the most shocking thing was that the photo had been cropped. Marco's figure had been cut out, leaving only Anna and Lena. Someone made her believe they were dead, said Sophie, looking at the photo. Or someone forced her to fake their deaths, replied Marco. As they continued to search the apartment, Marco found another devastating clue. A bottle of medication with the name Maria Schultz on the label. It was a very strong antidepressant. Marco Schneider. They turned abruptly. Standing in the doorway was a man in his 60s, elegantly dressed, with a cold smile that didn't reach his eyes. Who are you? Marco asked. I am someone who knows the whole truth about your wife, And if you want to see her alive again, you have to come with me. Sophie grabbed Marco's arm. Don't go, it's a trap. The man laughed. Smart girl, but you have no choice. If you don't come with me, Anna will really die this time, and so will both of you. Marco looked at Sophie, then at the man. Every fiber of his being told him not to trust him. But if there was a chance to save Anna, he had to take the risk. Agreed, Dr. Marco said, but she's coming with us. He pointed to Sophie. As you wish. But remember, Mr. Schneider, some secrets are better left buried. The man led them through Hamburg to a secluded villa on the outskirts of the city. It was a place Marco had never seen before. Elegant but eerie, surrounded by high walls and surveillance cameras. Who are you? Marco asked as he entered. My name is Robert Wagner. I was, let's say, your wife's business partner. Anna had no business. She was an architect, working for private firms. Robert smiled bitterly. Mr. Schneider, your wife had many secrets, and they were all very dangerous. He invited them to take a seat in a luxurious living room. On the walls hung photos of Anna in situations Marco didn't recognize. Anna talking to men in expensive suits. Anna signing documents. Anna in places that looked like Swiss bank offices. 3 years ago, Robert began, your wife became involved in a money laundering ring. I was the intermediary between her and some, shall we say, unsavory international investors. Marco felt his world collapse again. You're lying. Anna would never have done such a thing. Your wife had gambling debts of 5 million euros, Mr. Schneider. Debts to people who don't accept payment deferrals. Anna never gambled. She played online on illegal sites. Poker, virtual casinos, betting. She lost all the money she had. Then she started using the company accounts. When she discovered that they were about to uncover the suspicious bank transactions, she agreed to help us. Marco stood up angrily. Enough. Where is my wife? Robert pressed a button on a remote control. A live video appeared on a screen. Anna was sitting in a white room on a chair, her hands tied. She seemed dazed and confused. Anna! Marco shouted. Robert turned up the volume. Anna's voice could be heard, faint and distant. Marco, I'm sorry. I ruined everything. I've been lying to you for years. The money, all the money was to protect Lena. Protect Lena from what? Marco asked the screen. Robert turned off the video. In front of me, Mr. Schneider. You see, your daughter is not your daughter. The silence in the room was deafening. Lena is my and Anna's daughter, a relationship we had 20 years ago before Anna married her. When Anna started getting into debt, I made her a proposal. Fake your death and move in with me or reveal the truth about Lena. Marco felt as if someone had ripped his heart out of his chest. Lena is not my daughter. Anna chose to protect her from the pain of the truth. She faked her death with my help. But now she's tired of this life and wants to come back. The problem is that she knows too much about our business. Sophie, who had been silent until then, suddenly stood up. Liar. Robert looked at her in surprise. What? I know Lena Schneider. We go to the same school, even if she doesn't notice, because we're in different classes, and Lena is identical to her father. She has the same eyes, the same nose, the same expression. She doesn't look like them at all. Robert turned pale. You can't know that. Besides, Sophie continued, if Anna really had gambling debts, why were all her credit cards still active when she died? Why did Mr. Schneider never receive any payment demands from creditors? Marco looked at Sophie gratefully. The girl was right. Robert stood up nervously. That doesn't matter. Now you both know too much. Where is Anna Ek? Marco asked in a threatening voice. She's safe and she'll stay that way if you do what I say. But Robert didn't know that Sophie had a plan. While Robert was on the phone in the next room, Sophie approached Marco and whispered, I know who this man really is. My father was a private investigator. Before he died, he was investigating Robert Wagner for blackmailing rich married women. Marco felt anger explode inside him. So Anna is a victim. Robert came back into the room. I spoke to my partners. Anna has lived long enough, and so have you. Robert pulled a gun from his jacket, but Sophie threw a vase at him and hit him in the head. Marco lunged at him and fought for the gun. During the struggle, a shot was fired and broke a window. Robert fell to the floor, dazed. Quick, Sophie cried. We have to find Anna. In the basement, they found Anna sitting on a chair under the influence of sedatives. Anna? Marco shook her gently. I'm Marco. I'm here to take you home to cool. Anna slowly opened her eyes. Marco, is that really you? Yes, my dear. I'm here. Anna began to cry. He forced me. He said he would hurt you and Lena. Sophie watched the door. I can hear you talking. I called the police. They left the villa when the patrol cars arrived. Robert Wagner was arrested along with his accomplices. 2 months later, the Schneider villa in Blankenese was full of life again. Anna recovered from the trauma, supported by a psychologist and the love of her family. Lena had welcomed her mother's return with tears of joy. Sophie now lived with him. Marco had suggested that she become part of the family, and she had accepted. How did you survive? Marco asked Anna one evening. By thinking of you and Lena, Anna replied. Robert had made me believe that he would kill you both if I ran away. He showed me fake photos of your funeral. I thought I had lost you forever. Marco kissed her gently. Anna, you were a victim. There's nothing to forgive. Robert had discovered some of my bad investments and started blackmailing me. I never gambled, as he claimed. That evening, the family was reunited. Marco, Anna, Lena, and Sophie. Dad, Lena said, tomorrow I'm going to the cemetery to remove Mom's gravestone. Right, said Marco. Now it's a symbol of rebirth, Sophie spoke up. Mr. Schneider, that day at the cemetery, you believed me right away. Why? Marco smiled. Because true love never dies, Sophie. It may be hidden, but it never dies. Anna took Marcus in Sophie's hands, and thanks to a brave girl, our love found its way home. 2 years later, Sophie graduated with top marks and chose to study criminology. I want to help other families, she said. On the day of her graduation, Marco whispered to Anna, sometimes angels don't have wings. Sometimes they just have the courage to tell the truth. Their story proved that true love can overcome any deception, that the truth always has the power to emerge, and that sometimes saviors come from the most unexpected situations. If this story moved you to tears, if you believe that true love can overcome any deception and that the truth always has the power to emerge, leave a heart below. I want to hear from you. Have you ever felt that something important was being hidden from you? Do you believe that the instinct of the heart is stronger than the evidence of the eyes? Tell me your stories of hidden truths and miraculous reunions in the comments. If this story touched your heart, like it. If you believe that true love never dies, subscribe so you don't miss any stories that prove that truth always triumphs. Share with someone who needs to believe that miracles still exist. Comment. The truth always comes to light, even if you believe that no secret can remain hidden forever. Remember, no matter how sophisticated the lies are or how powerful those who tell them are, true love and truth always have the power to emerge. And sometimes it is the most humble and courageous people who bring to light what others want to keep hidden. See you in the next video with another story that will make you believe in the power of love and courage. I love you, heart families.